Brandon, you're working on a musicology degree.
Yeah.
Primarily focused, quote, on the more extreme forms of hardcore and metal, particularly examining queer representation in those scenes, as well as intersections of popular music and contemporary classical techniques.
Yes. You found that on the university website.
That is correct.
Bio, yeah.
And your degree also explores transgendered vocalities, gender performativity theory in female-fronted extreme metal and metalcore bands.
Yes.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That bio is a little bit out of date now. I haven't been doing work on hardcore or metalcore bands lately. I'm writing my master's thesis on non-normative bodies in music videos and production of desire. So that's a kind of a queer theory topic, and I'll be kind of tying that, undergirding it with some theories of transgender studies and things like that, especially looking at like Marilyn Manson's music videos, and how that works as a social critique of capitalism. So that's my main kind of thesis is creating this space via popular music video for a social critique of a minoritized body of people. So
when you say non-normative,
yeah. Well, I mean, you think of like Manson's Mechanical Animals record.
The cover there with the
the cover, and so music videos that he did with those, he's actually wearing that latex suit where he has very smooth kind of latex skin, and like his fingers are kind of extended, and he has breasts, but he also has like ambiguous kind of covered up genitalia and things. So what that means, what that means if you watch those videos, they're also very focused on sex, on lust, for those sorts of bodies. And so the thing is that I mean, people do exist who have who don't have what we're told through media is what you're supposed to look like. And so I'm trying to find a way that his videos can be used as a critique of kind of the media represented body image, and how that translates into ways that we're told that you're not supposed to find people who have non-normative bodies to be attractive. You're supposed to find them kind of repulsive.
And these videos fetishize them.
Yeah, they fetishize them in a way, and they also, I mean, his songs at least, what he talks about in his songs at least, are very critical of capitalism, and very critical of kind of normative Christian kind of rhetoric, and so that I think ties it into an interesting way that it could actually be used as a social critique, as well as speak to a movement of a popular movement to kind of actually talk about what it means to be a body that's not the perfect body that media companies and marketing companies want people to think they should be, things like that. So
I mean, and in his particular case, the underlying thrust that I think is pretty hits you on the gut level, that his whole imagery might be pushing is just sort of non-conformity, and yet at the same time, I wonder how much if you were to say finish your thesis and then run it by the artist and the director of the artist himself, Marilyn Manson, and then the director of that video, and then the art designer of that set and everything.
Sure.
I wonder how they would take that, because it's sort of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, he's pushing non-conformity, and on the other hand, he's representing it almost in this sort of demonic, dark kind of way. So I wonder that for someone who, like you said, people who have bodies that are not quote-unquote standard, might be getting a mixed signal there. And I wonder for the artists themselves how some of this is like sort of naturally metaphorical, almost like they're playing with these images but might not necessarily be able to articulate
No, absolutely. I mean, there are also a lot of contradictions even within Manson's kind of life outside of his performance identity. I mean, you look, for example, at photos from his wedding. And, there was nothing non-normative about him getting married. It was very Victorian, kind of Gothic. So it was very aesthetically driven, but it was certainly not. He wasn't wearing his latex suit with with kind of prosthetic limbs and things like that. So I mean, there's a divide. There's certainly a kind of a division between him as the performer versus him as living his day-to-day life. But I mean, he is at least, or he ostensibly says that he's conscious of what he's critiquing. I mean, he's in interviews he certainly is critical of capitalism and normative sexuality and things like that. Yeah, whether or not he's fully buys into what he says. You never know. I'm not sure if that actually matters, because I'm not sure if I'm concerned with whether Manson himself endorses what I'm saying as much as his videos can create a space for what I'm saying. And
you're saying that it just sort of emanates from that imagery.
Yeah, and so I mean, and I think he's certainly aware, at least to some extent, about the imagery, because I mean, he is creating this kind of this kind of otherly focus on it. I don't know if I would say demonic, but certainly playing with things that are not commonly shown through the media. But he's also, the way he shows them is in a very lust-focused sort of way. So I mean, his videos are, at least visually to me, explicitly about desiring non-normativity. And so I mean, I don't know if I mean, I don't know if that would necessarily gel with being a demonic representation. I mean, unless you desire demonic figures, which is another another thing altogether.
That's a whole other line of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very. I mean, there are certainly very sexualized and lustful images that focus on these bodies that he and the characters in his music videos are representing. And I think that can be a very powerful critique of many different things in kind of late capitalist America. But that's my master's thesis.
And for those at home who don't, for those at home, can you define vocal performativity?
Yeah. So that was that when I was working with kind of hardcore metal bands. What I was talking about was female-fronted, female-led vocal or female-led hardcore metal or metalcore bands.
Like OTEP. Maybe.
Yeah, like some of the more like the newer kind of metalcore bands I'm thinking were like I Wrestled a Bear once, but also
Arch Enemy.
Arch Enemy for sure. Like bands who are fronted by women, but the voices that they use, the vocalities that they use, are these really brutal, deep growls that ostensibly, if somebody heard it without knowing anything about the band, would at least think, oh yeah, that sounds like every hardcore metal band,
right.
That the lead singer is a man.
Right. Fuck the Facts too is another one.
Yeah, and so what so
where's that?
So yeah, so the what I was working with there was what happens when you see a female bodied person creating these vocal sounds.
It's non-normative.
Right, exactly. And so what that does to perceptions of gender and sex with stage, because I went out and I've seen a bunch of these bands live, and it's not a studio produced thing. Like that's a vocality that these singers can actually produce, and it's really it's certainly lower and growlier than anything I can see. But.
And it's almost like neutralizing the gender of it, because it seems to almost be intended to not draw attention to the femaleness of the vocalist, and it's almost like leveling the playing field in a way. And I'm not sure what the intention is, or
I mean, it could be. But then you look at people like Angela Gassow, who the lead singer of Arch Enemy. I mean, she certainly doesn't visually present herself as ambiguous. I mean, she wears, you know, she's very feminine when she's on stage. She, you know, she's visually very feminine, and then vocally has a very, you know, what you might consider a masculine vocality, at least according to kind of traditional gender ideas. And you find that with a lot of people, and there is certainly a spectrum. You know, the lead singer of I Wrestled Bear Once is much more, you know, is not wearing as femme kind of clothing, but you know, you certainly wouldn't look up and confuse, you know, her as a male-bodied person. You know, there's the only thing that may draw you to that is initially hearing the vocality, and so hearing that vocality of what might be considered a masculine vocality versus seeing the performer on stage who's visually, you know, a female-bodied person, kind of creates not a disconnect, but creates a
reconnect.
You know, yeah, kind of challenges, right? In ways, challenges what the ideas of gender are.
Right. It sort of puts fog over the bridge that you thought was there between your perception of what's in your idea of maleness and your idea of these poles of maleness and femaleness. It's like, wait, there's, you know, it's foggy. I'm not sure where this is going.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.